Hey guys, this is For Sake of Reality here with the 15th episode of the Remnant tutorial series. In this episode, we're going to be setting up burst fire. In Remnant, the burst fire is not able to be changed per weapon, but I'm going to give you an option to be able to toggle between it. I'm not going to set this up in my game, meaning I'm going to delete it after, but I think some of you may want it in case you want something slightly different in Remnant, so you'll be able to press B and it will toggle between auto and burst fire. So without further ado, we will get into this tutorial. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open up our structures, which is in our data structures. And we want to go to our weapon data. And we're going to create two new variables in here. One's going to be burst amount, and that will be a float. And it'll determine how many bullets will be shot out of the gun. And we need three variables actually. We need can burst. This is going to be a boolean. And we're going to create one more float. And it's going to be the burst delay. That's going to be a delay like between each mouse click, how many times you can, so you can't just rapidly burst your gun. You can set your own delay between each shot. And we will move these above here, so they're above these drop down ones for the sockets and the animation. So we have the fire rate, can burst, burst amount, and burst delay. We can close out of that now. So now when we go into our weapon list, for each individual weapon we'll have these values set up so we can set can burst. Because in Remnant, in Remnant you specific weapons, they'll either burst or they won't burst. You can't switch between them. But I'll be showing you how to set up a quick toggle between them all. And we're just going to set up a burst amount. It's going to be 3 bullets. And the delay is going to be 0.3 for this test. You can adjust those however you want. Now we're going to want to open up our items, our weapons, and our master weapon blueprint. And down here, in our rate of fire, we're going to need to make a few changes. So I'm going to drag this down here for now. Bring this up like that. I'm actually going to break this connection. I'm going to open up this. We now have a check for can burst. So we're going to create a branch by holding B and clicking, or right clicking and typing branch. And we'll plug this in. So now we have our branch created for checking if we can burst, and if we can't burst, we will just continue on down into here. But if we can burst, we are going to get our character reference. And we're going to set shooting false so that we can't, so that it's not letting us spam through it, or it's not saying that we're holding the button basically, so we're not auto firing. We actually need a function. We're going to create a function rather than set it up all here. So I'm going to create a function called burst fire. And in here, we're going to grab our weapon data table. And we're going to break it. And in here, we want to get our burst amount. -1. Float. Minus float. We want a -1 because that will remove the basically the shots fired are going to start at 0, and it's going to count 0 as a number basically. So I'll just show you this. We're going to create a variable called shots fired. We're going to get that. So we're going to get greater than or equal to float. And we're going to check what's greater than or equal to the burst amount -1. And the burst amount is set to 3, so shots fired is at 0. So we subtract 1 for it. Instead of shooting 4 bullets, it'll shoot 3. And we put in 4, it'll shoot 4 bullets instead of 5. That just makes it so you can set the variable here properly instead of having a 4 to shoot 2 to shoot 3 bullets and so on. And I'll just put an example: 0, 1, 2, 3, 3. So like 0, 1, 2, 3 equals 4 numbers. So to get to 3, that's how we'll get there. So if you subtract 1, it will equal 3. If that makes a little bit of sense. So anyway, if the shots fired is false, we're going to get our shots fired and set it to whatever the current shots fired is plus float 1. So we're adding 1 to it each time it comes through here, starting at 0. We're going to want to get a character reference. And we're going to want to run our shooting event, server shoot or server fire, whatever you have written down for that. Because we want it to shoot each time it runs through. It's false, and it'll add 1 to the burst. It will shoot a bullet, and we'll loop through it again until it reaches the burst amount. And once it reaches the burst amount, it will go in through the true. Just going to return this like that. So if once it does reach the burst amount, we're going to copy this node for set shots fired. We're going to set it to 0, and we're going to return. Okay, now we want to go back to our event graph, and in our fire rate, we can just call our burst fire event, and it will run through this. We'll get our fire rate, delay, and it will shoot the bullet like a burst fire, and it will shoot until we reach the limit. Basically, that's how this is supposed to work. I also want, after the burst, I want to be able to shoot again. And I'll just move this like that. And I'll set the burst to true on my rifle for testing. Just test to see if that's working. And there we go, we have our burst fire. And you notice our fire rate is not working, I don't think. Oh yeah, that's because I'm actually missing something over here. Just gonna make some room right here, like that. And we're gonna add a delay here. And the reason I never set this up as a fire rate function because delays can't actually go in the function. I might redo this later or remove the delays once we set up a fire animation and everything, so we can set up a function for this. But this should work for now. And now this is where our burst delay is going to come in. So it's going to disable shooting, do the burst shot, and it's going to delay it. And whatever the delay amount is not going to allow you to shoot again until that's finished, basically. So now everything should be working fine. Double checking everything. Okay, it seems the delay is not working there for some reason. 1 second, I'll look into that. Okay, so I seem to have found my problem. This variable actually is the wrong one. So we want to open up our master character. And in our input graph, we want to go to our weapon inputs and our left mouse. We're going to create a new variable called can shoot. It's going to be a boolean. This is going to determine if we can shoot. This one's for if we are already shooting or not. So if it's held or released. And for now, we're just going to keep balance save, and we're going to set this to true. And if we can shoot, which is right now where we can always shoot, we're going to run this into here and set shooting to true. And once we do that, we go to our master weapon again. Yeah, I'll remove these. We'll get our character reference. And we'll look for the can shoot. And we'll set this to false. So that now, while this, it won't allow us to run into the shooting event when we're bursting. And after the burst delay, we'll copy this and paste it. And that should be that. Now our burst delay should work. Spamming the button, then it will only shoot as fast as the delay is going. Set to a more normal speed. There we go, we have our burst delay. I'm just gonna quickly show you guys how to set up, if you want to switch the fire modes between burst and automatic fire. I know that Remnant doesn't have that, so we're not really gonna use that for our tutorial. But I'm just gonna show you how to do it since some people might want to. So you want to create a function called switch fire mode. And then we'll create a branch. Look at our weapon data. We'll break our weapon data. And first we're going to check if we can burst. We're going to check if it's set to burst mode. And if it is set to burst mode, we want to get our item ID, hit data, table row, put our ID in so it gets the item ID that we set per blueprint. So it knows which data table, which row to get in the data table. So it's rifle 1, pistol 1, knife 1, that's set in each blueprint except for the master. Obviously you'd name it right there for the rifle, for example. And from here you want to drag out, break, get our set weapon data. And if we find a row in our data table, which means the ID is matching to one of the ones in our data table, for item, then split this. I'm just gonna set all of these to whatever the item is supposed to be. Leave the can burst blank. So if we can burst is true, we're gonna disable it. And if it's false, you just copy all that and paste it down here, Control C and Control V. We set it true, so now we can burst. Return. Go back to our character. I'm just gonna, you can make an input like we usually would in the input graph. In here in the project settings, you just make one for B. But I'm just gonna do it this way quickly since I'm not gonna keep this in here. Get your weapons, get your equipped weapon. So whatever weapon you have equipped. And we will switch fire mode. And we'll switch fire modes. Now, you press B, go from auto to bursts. And auto and burst. That's going to be everything for this video. If you found this video helpful and want to see more, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new tutorial uploads. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comments section below or join our community Discord using the link in the description. Thank you, and I'll see you all in the next episode.